Mama, I'm a criminal. Mama, I'm a criminal. Mama, I'm a criminal.
That Gannon has a testimony. That Gannon has a story. He's special. And this is his story.
Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As always, my name is Anna and welcome back for another True Crime Tuesdays. Now, if this is your first time here, hello, welcome. I am obviously a true crime YouTube channel. I cover cases, mainly children, because I feel that children are the ones who need their voice heard the most. So, with that being said, today we are actually going to be talking about a case that is really close to me, really special to me, and that is the murder of Gannon Stauch. So, if you like true crime, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and let's get started. The story of Gannon Stauch is one of those cases that is actually really near and really dear to my heart, and one that I will always hold close to me. The reason being is because Gannon Stauch's story is what originally drove me to start a YouTube channel. I made a video on him before on another channel and had it up for a few months, got about maybe like 100 views out of it, and then I went ahead and just made the video private because I felt like I could do better. So here we are, because it's only the best for Gannon. September 29th, 2008, Eugene Albert Al Stouk and Landon Hoyt would become parents to Gannon Jacob Stauch. When Gannon was born, he was born prematurely, about 3 months premature. And being born prematurely, his chance of survival was very low. And he only weighed 1 pound and 6 ounces and was given a survival chance of 10%. But Gannon was a fighter, and he fought, and he survived. And he even proved the doctors wrong. Doctors who would say that if he did survive, that he would have physical and mental disabilities. But he didn't. He was walking, he was talking, he was flourishing. Now, there was medicine that Gannon would need to be on, but he didn't let that stop him. Gannon's favorite things, his favorite color was blue. He loved Sonic, and he loved playing video games, specifically Sonic video games. I'm going to show you a video of Gannon playing Sonic.
Hey guys, and today I'm about to play some Sonic Mania.
Alright, let's zoom in.
Oh, I got Ann Nichols and Debo. There's Nichols, sorry Nichols. Whee! I believe I can fly. I believe. Nope.
You can fall and crack your face open.
Ding.
He's way better at this game than I am, guys.
True that. Owie. Not like the Sonic 2 boss. The legs has no hitbox. But dang, I defeated him. In your face, Eggman. Ooh, the rings. The rings! Oh. What happened? Oh. What? Tails, you're a boss at this.
It's such a cute video. And yeah, I could never. He could beat me a million times over. I found like 5 different places where I would probably have died like over and over again. I know that he definitely would have gone on to do amazing things and probably even become an amazing Twitch player. We will sadly never know. Now, I want to do things a little differently. Before I get into the actual case, I do want to discuss the adults involved in this case. His parents and Letitia Stauch. Albert L. Stouk. Being in the military, he was part of South Carolina's National Guard. He was actually a recruiter. And a little something about his educational background. In 2005, he studied psychology at Liberty University. He obtained a bachelor's degree with American Military University in space studies in 2010. Now, 3 years later, he and Landon would divorce. And he would go on to marry Letitia Stauch in 2015. Landon Hoyt, Gannon's mom, she was also a native of South Carolina. She also was educated, having gone to college at Cooper College and Coastal Carolina University. She became a teacher, specifically a health and PE teacher. After her divorce from Al in 2013, she would also go on to remarry and have 2 daughters with her new husband, Mike. Finally, Letitia Stauch. At the time, she was the new wife of Al, making her Gannon's stepmother. She had a daughter of her own named Harley Hunt. Letitia, just like Landon, just like Al, would also attend college. And later in 2019, she would graduate from Liberty University. I believe that this was where she may have gotten her doctorate degree. Somehow she managed to be able to get one of those. She would also have multiple jobs within teaching and education. She would also break some contracts, though, as well, working for 2 schools at once without the consent of the other, and job abandonment were both breaches of her contract. It had gotten to the point where in 2016, the South Carolina Board of Education temporarily suspended her teaching license. After marrying Al, she would move and they would live together in Colorado. Letitia would move to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, shortly after Gannon's disappearance. Al Stouk would need to leave Colorado for work with the National Guard in Oklahoma, and he would be gone from January 25th and return January 28th, 2020. Sunday, January 26th, 2020, in the morning, Letitia would conduct some internet Google searches. Letitia would search, "It's crappy some parents don't care for their kids or buy them presents." She would search this at 9:25 a.m. And again, that same search would be made a minute later at 9:27 a.m. Letitia and Gannon would go for a hike, and this seems to be something that they would do normally, and their hike would take place at Garden of the Gods. Later on that night, there would be an incident between Gannon and a candlelight. Here's how Letitia says it played out. She stated that Gannon had knocked over a candlelight and it fell onto the carpet and left a carpet burn. She would send a text to Al that is time-stamped at 10:54 p.m. saying, quote, "Do panic, but Gannon turned on a candle downstairs and set the downstairs. A second message would read, quote, "He is fine. He is scared and saying sorry and freaking out." Google searches would come after midnight for "my period son burned the carpet, how period do period I period fix period it." This search came in at 12:09 a.m. Will period humidifier period help if exposed to smoke? Monday, January 27th, 2020. At about 6:55 p.m., Letitia Stouk would report Gannon as missing, saying that he hasn't come home and is an hour late, that he had gone to a friend's house, that she had gone to a friend's house, and that Gannon wasn't there. So when police arrived, they would complete an initial sweep of the home. When Gannon couldn't be found, police would ask Letitia to show them what friend's house she had gone to. But that's the thing. Letitia never actually did go to a friend's house. And police knew this, since Letitia could not give them an address, directions, or even a friend's name. Letitia would tell police that she had seen Gannon leaving the house at about 3:15 p.m., heading to a friend's house. After police took an initial report, they began a missing persons investigation. A tip line would be set up for any sightings or any tips that would help in bringing Gannon back or finding out what happened to Gannon. After some investigating, this is the actual timeline that police believe happened the day Gannon disappeared. On the morning of Monday, January 27th, 2020, Letitia Stouk would keep Gannon from school, based on text messages recovered between Letitia and Al. Letitia would say that the night before, Gannon had been having stomach problems. It would be verified that Gannon had in fact been marked as absent from the school. As for when it came to who would watch Gannon, since Letitia did work, she would tell Al, "I'm just going to give them an excuse and stay with him." Letitia would then notify her employer that she could not come in that day, but not because her stepson was sick, but because her stepfather had died after being hit by a car. If I'm trying to get the day off, I'm going to go with my kid is sick, not somebody died. I mean, she didn't lie. Her father had been hit by a car and died as a result, but that had happened years before. So after calling herself out of work and Gannon out of school, she would take a photo of Gannon asleep in his bed, and that photo is time-stamped at 8:13 a.m. Keep in mind that in the photo, you can see Gannon's Nintendo Switch. And of course, Gannon loved games, so he loved his Switch and would always have it with him. Just keep that in mind. Letitia's iPhone would be locked from 9:56 a.m. until 2:45 p.m. Neighbors' security cameras would catch Letitia and another person who physically looked like Gannon, and they would both get into a Nissan Frontier at 10:16 a.m., and they would leave the residence. The Nissan Frontier would return at 2:19 p.m., and Letitia would exit the vehicle. Now, there is a lot of opinions on whether or not Gannon did exit the vehicle with her, because the footage that we have, it's not extremely that clear. we are going off of the affidavit, the official affidavit. And according to the affidavit, investigators say that Gannon did exit the vehicle, stating, quote, "I cannot be sure if another person exited the vehicle or not, but I submit Gannon likely did return home with Letitia this afternoon," end quote. So Letitia and Gannon leave, and Letitia leaves her phone at home. Then, even after you get home, you wait a whole 26 minutes before you go to unlock it. In my opinion, that is very suspicious. However, while they were out, we do have messages from Gannon's phone. At 10:37 a.m., Gannon's phone would send a message to Letitia's daughter, Harley, saying, quote, "Letitia left her phone at home. If you need her, text me." At 11:22 a.m., camera footage and a receipt would show that Letitia was at Petco purchasing 3 dog coats. Footage, however, would show that Letitia is alone. Gannon is not with her, but workers would report that she did keep looking out the window to the vehicle where the car was parked. At 12:06 p.m., Gannon's phone would receive a message from Al that read, quote, "Hey buddy." That message would not be replied to until 1:21 p.m. And the message would say, quote, "Can I play Zelda at least?" He loved his games. Al would respond to that message saying, quote, "Not today." Letitia would return to that same PetSmart that she was at earlier, and this time she would make a second purchase. And yet Gannon still would not be with her. Strangely though, at 1:43 p.m., Gannon's phone would search, "Can my parent find my cell?" And she spells cell as an actual sale terms, phone, period, if it's off. I myself, just like investigators, do not believe that this was actually Gannon who searched this, but it was in fact Letitia trying to cover her tracks. I'm sure Gannon was smart enough to use a space instead of a period in between words, and I'm sure Gannon was smart enough to spell cell as in cell phone correctly. Finally, at 2:19 p.m., ADT security sensors would pick up Gannon and Letitia returning home. And they would still be alone since Letitia's daughter Harley would still be at work and Gannon's sister Lena is at school. Then finally, the iPhone would be unlocked at 2:45 p.m. So from 2:45 p.m. till 3:15 p.m., when Lena returned home from school, is when police believe Gannon was murdered, based off of those ADT security sensors. At 3:15 p.m., Lena returns home from school, and that is when Letitia would tell her to go outside and play. When Lena asked about her brother, Letitia said that he was sleeping, so she could not see him. At 3:55 p.m., Gannon's phone would receive a message from Al saying, "Hey, buddy." But that message was not opened until 7:40 p.m. Harley would get to the house at 4:42 p.m. She would pick up Lena, and the two would leave. 10 minutes later, Letitia would send a text to Harley, which, based off of the message, seemed like a list of things for Harley to get from the store. That list and message would read as, quote, carpet powder, 2 things, baking soda, trash bags, end quote. Receipt time-stamped 5:14 p.m. would show the purchase of these items from a dollar store. At 6:55 p.m. is when Letitia would phone police and begin the story that Gannon had not returned home. Police would arrive at the home at 9:09 p.m., 3 hours after Letitia had already called police. The reason why it took so long is probably because she told police that Gannon was a runaway, and runaways are considered non-emergency. So, when police arrived, Letitia gives them permission to search the home, and body cam footage would show police completing an initial search of the home, checking Gannon's room, the garage. Police would then take reports and be on their way. The next day, Tuesday, January 28th, 2020, at about 8:30 a.m., Letitia Stouk would visit an Avis rent-a-car at the airport in Colorado Springs, Colorado. She would park her car, a Volkswagen Tiguan, and this is where she rented a 2019 Kia Rio at 8:50 a.m. Note that 2 minutes before the rental, Letitia would text her daughter Harley to put her car, Harley's Volkswagen Jetta, into the garage. After getting the rental, Letitia would head to Colorado Springs Airport to pick up Al. Of course, when Al saw the Kia, he would question this, and that is when Letitia said that she did not want to put too many miles on the Tiguan because it was a lease. And she would simply tell him that the Tiguan was parked. She would, however, never tell him where. After picking up Al, GPS records would show that the two went to a King Cooper station and Wendy's before going back home. Letitia's phone records would show that she searched at 12:57 p.m., quote, "Can Nintendo find my Switch?" This search would make investigators believe that Letitia had possession of the Switch and was trying to see if it could be tracked. Again, remember, Gannon loves his Switch. At 4:19 p.m., Letitia would search, quote, "They are asking for our son's toothbrush, but said nothing is wrong." What's strange is that she would also, at this same time, text Al that exact same statement as the Google search. So my question to you is coincidental, or you killed your son and you want to see? Al would reply back to this message saying, quote, "Who, the police?" Letitia would reply, quote, "Yes, they asked for toothbrushes." Al would reply, quote, "What do you think they are hiding?" At around 7 p.m. that night, Letitia would go back to the airport parking where her Tiguan was parked and retrieve her car. A parking receipt that would later be found in her car shows the car was picked up at 7:02 p.m. From 8:30 to 10:20 p.m., cell records would show that the Tiguan and Letitia would be in the area of Highway 105 and Perry Park in Douglas County, Colorado. At 9:16 p.m., records would show the car in a rural area near the Highway 105 and would stay there until she left at around 9:28 p.m. What were you doing for almost 15 minutes? At 10:26 p.m., Harley would leave the Stouk residence where her records show she had been, and she would go and pick up Letitia. However, she didn't pick her up where she was. She picked her up near Powers and Carefree. At 10:45 p.m., Letitia would text Detective Bethel, quote, "What do you want from me? Because I have nothing. One of your very own leaked to me what you guys were doing. I did nothing / or am I being set up? I'm not really even sure other than being told that by another blue with El Paso. I was told I couldn't go home to sleep, and on top of that, men were sent to a home with a minor female, and she was forced to stay there, not to even have good. Every conversation that said, even at this moment, I can hear inside, what do you want from me?" End quote. What did this woman teach? First of all, how did this woman get a doctorate? Second of all, I know she's a substitute, but please tell me she is not an English substitute. And 3, can you please form a correct sentence for once? Detective Bethel would simply reply with, quote, "Come talk to me. I would just like information to find Gannon." Wednesday, January 29th, 2020, Letitia would return the Kia Rio at around 9 a.m. Her daughter Harley would pick up Letitia in, of course, Harley's car. And around 11:30 a.m., Letitia would take her car, the Tiguan, to the car wash. Surveillance would show what could be blood by the back bumper. Finally, though, at noon, Letitia would arrive at the El Paso Sheriff's Office for her interview with investigators. Here's the thing, though. Letitia knew her interview was at 10 a.m., but she did not arrive until noon. Even calls with investigators asking when she would be in. During her interview, though, it was very suspicious. Letitia brought a notebook full of notes from the day Gannon disappeared and would refer back to her notes throughout the interview. Letitia would initially tell detectives that a man named Eduardo had raped her and abducted Gannon. After questions from detectives, her story would change. And this time, Eduardo would be waiting for them in the basement when they got home. And that is when he attacked and held a gun to her. But that he would allow her to go upstairs and greet Lena when she got home from school. And that when she went back to the basement, Eduardo would rape her again between 3:30 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. She also mentioned that she may have blacked out after hitting her head. After answering questions, she would add that during the attack, Gannon jumped onto the back of Eduardo in an attempt to save her, but that Eduardo tossed him across the room. Once he finished, Eduardo would point the gun at Gannon and ask for a suitcase, and at which point she would give him one and a cardboard box. Eduardo would try to rape her again, but she claimed to have hit her head and blacked out again. Upon further questions, Letitia would explain how she met Eduardo and how he got into the home since there was no signs of forced entry. Letitia would explain that she had met him on Sunday January 26th, when she was out looking for someone to help repair the carpet after the candle incident. She claimed that she was out looking around at the local construction sites, and that was where she found Eduardo and asked if he could repair the carpet. And after he agreed, she would provide him the garage door code and that he should do the job while she's out shopping the next day. Note two things. The candle incident pretty much happened at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. I don't know of any construction sites that are doing construction at that time. They're all home in bed because they work at like 4 or 5 a.m. And number two, keep in mind that Letitia was offered a rape kit, but she declined. When Letitia is practically done with her interview, investigators would try to hold her off while they submitted for a search warrant of her car and her cell phone. She would start to have chest pains and stuffed tissues in her pants. Letitia would be taken to the hospital. However, she would shortly after arriving leave the hospital without notifying the detectives. An unknown person would pick up Letitia and take her to meet up with Harley. Her cell phone and vehicle, the Volkswagen Tiguan, were seized, and when a forensic search was conducted in the home, they discovered an empty gallon of vinegar and suspected carbon fibers were found in the carpet brushes that were in the dishwasher. This is also where they would find blood. Let me first go ahead and describe the layout of the house. So it's described in the affidavit as 6627 Mandan Drive is a ranch-style home, 2,500 square feet, and 2-car attached garage. It is a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2 bedrooms located in the basement. On one side of the basement was 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and on the other side was another bedroom and bath, and this was Gannon's room. Next to Gannon's room was an unfinished utility room. There is a staircase with a small landing that allows access to the main floor of the house as well as the garage. A blood regent, the Blue Star, revealed blood stains that had been washed out from Gannon's room. The utility room, the staircase leading to the main floor. In a corner of Gannon's room, blood had bled through the carpet onto the concrete below. Blood stains and blood splatter would also be found on the walls. The mattress was also swabbed for blood. An electrical socket near Gannon's bed would have traces of clean blood stains. And when the socket cover was removed, blood was revealed and collected. DNA tests would be completed on the blood and would come back as being Gannon's. While the home is being searched for evidence, Letitia is getting herself another rental car, since at this point police have seized her car. She would rent a 2020 Nissan Altima, but a warrant would allow for a GPS tracker to be placed in the car. Moving on to Friday, January 31st, 2020, between 4:16 and 5:13 p.m., Letitia in the Nissan Altima would go back to Douglas County, Highway 105 and Perry Park Road. This is where investigators believe that she went to make sure that evidence could not be seen from the main road. It was also on this day that she would conduct an interview with journalist Spencer Wilson and give that infamous line that she expected an apology from everyone once Gannon is found. Let's watch it and break it down.
You are?
I am Tisha Stouk, which is Gannon's stepmother.
You've been a part of the investigation since the very first time. You were the last person to see him. Is that right?
Correct.
What did you see when you last saw him?
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about anything with the case. I would more so be willing to talk about how the community needs to have faith and continue to work together and not make these false accusations, like the things that have been said that I've disappeared from the community. I haven't been there to help, but there's lots of reasons behind that.
Reasons like death threats, right?
Right. Death threats are one of them. My family's getting lots of death threats. We counted over 20-some death threats already. Two, my husband's ex-wife is living in our home, and of course I'm not coming home to do these things and to help with the
Did you really just go ahead and throw that in there that you couldn't go back there because not Gannon's mother, but your husband's ex-wife is there? Seriously?
family when I was kind of like told I couldn't. And then many other things that happened with the El Paso County Police Department, you know, and in doing the investigation, I was told I wasn't complying. And could I elaborate on that?
Please do.
Yes. So I asked for an attorney during the interview, and I was denied that by them. I was held because they were blocking the door, and I was told I couldn't leave, and that if I would have touched them, they would have probably, you know, said I still wasn't complying or said I was, you know, trying to run away or something. But during the interview, I asked several times, could I stop the interview? Could I get an attorney? Could I stop the interview? Could I get an attorney? I was denied. I was told I couldn't get nothing to drink. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I mean, it was continuously that my constitutional rights were violated.
No police officer is not going to read you your rights, is not going to deny you as much as a bathroom. I don't know who you think you're fooling, but you're full of shit. And as far as her saying that her constitutional rights were violated, it's been proven pretty much already that that never happened. She's full of crap.
Say that they said then you weren't cooperating with the investigation.
That's why they said I wasn't cooperating at that time. Correct.
And why did you ask for an attorney at the time?
Well, I asked for an attorney at the time because there was one individual, there was two really good detectives, and so I'm not, you know, going to talk bad about detectives, but the tactics they started to get when I would answer questions, they try to, you know, they're detectives, they're supposed to twist. The one main goal is to find Gannon. But during that time, some of those things made me feel uncomfortable the way they were saying things. So I immediately stopped and felt like an attorney would help me with some of the vocabulary and things like that I needed help with and understanding some of the things that they were asking.
I'm going to shift gears to what has become a huge online presence of people obviously trying to do the right thing, help find Gannon. But at the same time, sometimes it just feels like rumor mongering. Have you seen any of those comments yourself?
We have. And see, that's one of the main things we haven't been around in the public eye because I didn't want to expose my family to it if all these things were going on. You know, there was comments about Gannon getting pushed off the hike, and there was comments about this, and that's just not true. I took care of Gannon for the last 2 years in our home because his mother didn't want to do it. And I would never, ever hurt this child. And I know there's some questions out there about, okay, so tell me what happens. That's up to the investigations when they end up letting you guys know, but I've cooperated with them, even to the point that we were held with a gun, and my daughter, a 17-year-old who serves our country in the United States Air Force, who has never committed a crime or done anything wrong in her life, was put in handcuffs over the keys that was in her purse so they could take her car.
And they weren't in there?
They weren't even in her car, in her purse.
And
they were in my pocket.
You originally didn't even know it was the law enforcement officers?
I didn't know it was a law enforcement officer because when he came out, I guess he was putting his jacket on, and it wasn't necessarily his fault. He was adjusting and happened to catch me. But I saw the gun and I panicked originally and kind of thought, oh gosh, I got to, who's this guy? And then once I realized it was the sheriff's office, I was totally okay, but they still had a gun and told me they were going to shoot me. But I was really concerned about my daughter, asking why she was being detained in handcuffs and things like that when that shouldn't even happen for a child. That shouldn't happen for someone who was standing inside of a store shopping because we couldn't have any clothes because all of our clothes were here. If we came here and got clothes, you know, we would be harassed. So she went to purchase some underwear and things like that and was put in the handcuffs in the store, you know, and then brought out with men with guns. And that's just not okay. You know, they could have approached me and said, "Hi, I'm with El Paso County. Can I please get this?" instead of the way that it happened.
I can't with her. Like, she literally is just like, this interview is supposed to be about Gannon and she's making it about herself. I mean, yeah, the reporter is like asking her questions and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't understand, like, why. And then you just have to keep throwing in those jabs at his mom. Like, that's ridiculous.
I should try and clarify here. Not necessarily crime rates, but the way that people are reacting online to rumors about you with the search.
Oh yes, wow. The rumors have gotten so bad. I pretty much have been told at least 10 different ways that these people have these conspiracy theories. I guess they watch a lot of law shows and maybe they have all these theories on how Gannon is dead. And that's what they're saying. So I'm like, why are you saying Gannon is dead? He is not dead. We are going to find Gannon. And that's the main goal that we all have. My family has. Just because you haven't seen us, we have that same goal. We've been out searching. My aunt has been out searching. My family has been out searching. We all have been doing that together so that we could protect each other.
How does it feel when not only you have a lost child who you are in care of, but then people blaming you for that child not being there?
You know, I'm just ready for Gannon to come home. Most importantly, for him to see his family. But second, I am going to be so ecstatic when I'm able to say to people that I hope they have a really sincere apology for all these theories that have came out online, for all the things they said that I have done or people have done. And I just want everyone to know that we're going to find Gannon. And I love him so much. I've helped taking care of him for so long.
Can you talk to me a little bit about him? I don't know him.
Gannon is so kind, and he loves to play video games. That's one of his favorite things. He loves Sonic and Mario, and you know, he's always helpful, and he was always so helpful with the dogs around the house, and we have 2 little cute dogs, and he was always like a person I could say, "Gannon, can you go do this?" and he would do it right away. You know, sometimes with kids we have to remind them and things like that, and that's okay, but he was so sweet and able to help anyone. He could notice when you're sick and say, "Are you okay?" and such a kind heart.
How do you have the soul to talk about Gannon like that? Knowing that he's not coming back. Knowing that you killed him, allegedly. In my opinion, allegedly, you killed him. And the fact that you have the nerve, the balls, the guts to talk about him in this way, it is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
All right. I know you just said that you can't say anything about the investigation, so you can just say so again if you can't answer this. But is there anything we can hear about the hike? Was there a hike? That just seems like rumors right now.
You know what? Could we bring my daughter up here? Because she can go and say that, you know, she came home from work after the hike and she can verify that Gannon was at our home.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine with me. If she doesn't want to, that's okay, but you're allowed to ask her. Not an okay so far?
Yes. I need Harley. Because they want you to verify was Gannon at home after the hike. Because you didn't go to the hike, but you came home from work.
Do you want me to just say yes?
No, just answer the question. Yes, you came home from work and you can verify Gannon was at home. Yeah.
I'm going to pause it here. This woman has nerve, like beyond nerve. The fact that she literally is like, I need you to tell them that Gannon was home when you got home from the market. And the fact that the daughter says, what do you want me to say? And she tells her what to say.
I told her she didn't have to be too in-depth because she is still, you know, a child. But I want to make sure that someone knows that there's another person to verify that Gannon.
Sure.
Does she need to hold this?
No.
Yes, so I came home later that evening. I was at work, and I can verify that he was there that night.
So there was a hike that you guys went on, but then you guys came home.
Yes.
Where'd you guys go hiking?
Garden of the Gods.
Oh, yes. Okay. I guess when
And then we ate Burger King afterwards, so, you know.
there you go.
Yeah.
And then it just was, I'm gonna go to play at a friend's house. And then it was just I'm off to go to play at a friend's house.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to like comment on that anymore, and for that reason is because some things have been turned and twisted, and you know that was one of those stories you were talking about where people say things. We had to hear things like who would let their child go out at dark and things like that, and that's just why I don't want to answer that. If I had to give, I'm not gonna say that part.
That's okay.
Never mind.
That's right.
I could take that out.
I understand that it gets tricky with
Yeah.
legal stuff. Do you feel like I asked you what I need to? Do you feel like this is going to help kind of turn the tide of what feels like a witch hunt, in my opinion?
I hope. Am I on camera now?
You are
okay.
still.
Okay. I think that a lot of people can see that I'm not missing and see that I am being cooperative, but to me, it's okay that they think those things because the way someone thinks about me, I don't have a problem with that. My main thing is I would never want someone to think that I would hurt Gannon or any of the children in our home because that's just not the case. I've spent my whole entire life working so hard in education. There was even things online that was talking about my education license and I shouldn't even be a teacher, and they just didn't know that. Like, we moved on a military move and I didn't finish out my contract, so I gave up my license in that state. It had nothing to do with any criminal activity, you know, or any of those things. And it just got blown out of proportion on my professional status, you know. And
do you feel like these are just internet detectives who think they know what they're doing?
it definitely is. And, you know, here's the thing that kind of saddens me. It's like, if you're going to talk about someone like that and have a witch hunt out for them, why would you even care, like, about doing those things? Because this is a child. You're telling me that you're just as mean, you're just as hateful to talk about someone else like that. That's how I feel. Like, we just should not. We should all come together and wait until the end and see what happens because Gannon's going to come home.
Any message for Gannon?
The message for Gannon I have is, Gannon, when you get here, you'll be able to truly tell what happened. And then I really hope I get a sincere apology from everyone who has made all those things, especially from my husband. We just wanted to add a message to Gannon from my family, is that we love you and miss you, and we hope that you come home soon. And Gannon, I can't wait till you can come home and let everyone know that you're okay. We love you.
First of all, as far as your teaching license is concerned, yes, it wasn't for criminal activity. No, but it does speak to your professional side considering you left a contract without notice and you broke a contract. So yeah, it does speak to your professional level. Second of all, again, you're speaking knowing that he's not coming back. You're saying, and the audacity to say, everyone's going to owe me this big apology when he comes back, knowing that he's not coming back. Again, allegedly, in my opinion. Oh, I cannot with this woman. I cannot. Going into February and over the next few weeks, detectives continued to search the home and continued looking for evidence. The crime scene would show that the weapon had to be a gun, a knife, something with some kind of blunt force. And investigators going into Valentine's Day believed that Douglas County could hold more evidence as to what happened to Gannon. Valentine's Day 2020, a day of romance. But for Al, it was a hard day because on this day, he would call Letitia. And while they spoke, he asked her what happened to Gannon. And when asked this question, Letitia came up with 4 new stories as to what happened. In the first story, she would say that Gannon's abductor was still in the house when the El Paso Sheriff's Office arrived, and that she tried to signal to officers that someone was in the residence. In the second story, she would say that a man named Quincy Brown had raped her and that he had taken Gannon, and that she knew Brown's full name because of a paper and an ID card that had fell out of his pocket. She would even send a photo to Al. But investigators would later find that the photo sent to him was of a man listed as a most wanted person relating to a different case. The third story, Quincy Brown is back, and this time she tells him that he had followed her from Petco and was laying in the middle of the road when Letitia stopped in order to avoid hitting him. He would jump into the car and force her to take him home, where he then raped her. And in the fourth story, Letitia and Gannon were near County Line Road and Highway 105, and that Gannon was riding his bike and fell and hit his head, and then was abducted by Quincy Brown, who was driven off by a man named Terrence. So now we're adding people. The next day, February 15th, 2020, Letitia would tell Al that the story of Gannon falling off of his bike was a lie, and that what really happened was that she and Gannon had been by an object by the abductor. She would go on to say that that was why there was blood in the carpet, that it was a combination of hers and Gannon's blood. She would also be adamant that the abductor was still there when the police arrived. As of Monday, February 17th, 2020, Letitia would speak to Laura Annuh and tell her that she wants to go to Colorado to take a lie detector test, and that police still thought that she was in Colorado because, of course, at this point, she's already in South Carolina. Later that day, Letitia would tell another person that she would be taking a lie detector test, but that law enforcement won't be involved and that it would not be admissible in court because, all lie detectors are never admissible in a court of law. The events of the next day, Tuesday, February 18th, 2020, is an interesting day. It begins at 10:14 a.m. when Letitia would call a phone number to be for a fake polygraph.com. She would speak with a representative that she never received order confirmation for a test that she had paid for. The representative, probably just trying to get her off of the phone, would tell her that he would send an email regarding the issue. After about an hour and no response later, Letitia would call the company back. And this time, she would get someone who told her that her report was blocked by management. The reason it was blocked was because of the types of questions that were asked. So the agent would tell Letitia that any test that involved illegal activity, the company reserved the right to not send. So let's take a look at the questions Letitia asked herself in her lie detector test. Question number 1. Do you intend to answer these questions regarding your stepson truthfully? She would answer yes. Is your birthday August 4th, 1983? She would answer yes. Question 3. Did you participate in any way in causing harm to your stepson? She would answer no. Question 4. Did your stepson return with you to your home? She said yes. And question 5. Did you participate in any way in causing the death of your stepson? She answered no. The last question is very interesting to investigators, considering that at this point, Gannon is still being considered and worked as a missing child, not even suspected of being dead. Coming to February 28th, 2020, Judge Ruffalo would sign the arrest warrant for Letitia Stauch. She would be arrested in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on March 2nd of 2020. So in the shadows of a global pandemic, Letitia would find herself exactly where she deserves to be, in a jail cell.
Well, we've yet to locate Gannon. This morning, just after 8 o'clock a.m. East Coast time, Letitia Stauch was taken into custody in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina without incident. Letitia will be held without bond in the J. Reuben Long Detention Center in Horry County, South Carolina, where she will remain until she's extradited back to Colorado Springs on the following charges. Charge 1, murder in the first degree of a child under 12 years of age by a person in a position of trust. Child abuse resulting in death. Tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with physical evidence.
She would have an extradition hearing on March 3rd, where she would waive her right to an attorney. And she would get extradited back to Colorado. And once she was on her way to Colorado, which was by vehicle, she would assault an officer who would have to be hospitalized. After this, Letitia would be held in a jail in Kansas as a courtesy hold. Arriving to her first hearing in Colorado on March 5th, 2020, and appearing from the El Paso County Jail via video call. This time, she would have an attorney and would enter her plea. Letitia Stauch would be charged with murder in the first degree of a child under 12 years of age by a person in a position of trust. She would also be charged with child abuse resulting in death, tampering with the deceased human body, and tampering with physical evidence. Al Stouk would file for divorce from Letitia Stauch on March 5th, 2020. His request for divorce was due to the marriage being irretrievably broken. His attorney would ask that Al be able to keep his military retirement as his sole and separate property, but that any property or debt that both had be divided equally. He also wanted the dog, which was a 3 to 4 month old blue French bulldog, and he also requested to not pay spousal support or pay for any of Letitia's attorney fees related to the divorce. Their divorce would be finalized, according to Al Stouk, in September of 2020, after months of Letitia Stauch refusing to submit a response to the divorce. On March 11th of 2020, Letitia would have and attend her advisement hearing, ensuring Letitia was well aware of her rights and the charges that she faced. The pandemic would cause for Letitia's next court date of April 14th, 2020 be pushed back to June 12th of 2020. Coming to March 17th of 2020, just outside Pensacola, Florida, Gannon's body would be found. He was found wrapped in bedding inside of a suitcase under a bridge. Police now had an even stronger case, since now they had Gannon's body. An autopsy would be completed, and it would be found that Gannon had a fractured skull, a gunshot wound to the lower left jaw, a stab wound, 18 sharp force stab wounds to the left side of his chest and to the right side of his back. Just like Gannon had fought for his life when he was a little preemie baby, he fought for his life again. Unfortunately, though, this time he did not make it. His funeral was held off due to the pandemic, but he would be laid to rest in South Carolina in September of 2020. Months after Letitia Stauch was arrested, she would actually attempt to escape from the El Paso County Jail. May 18th, 2020, Teresa Bochard, an inmate at the El Paso County Jail, was awaiting her own trial on charges of kidnapping and motor vehicle theft. At about 7 p.m., Teresa would notify Deputy Catherine Draper of 2 letters that she had received from Letitia Stauch earlier that day. When asked how she was able to get the letters, Letitia had slid it under her cell door during her 1 hour out of her cell, because when Letitia Stauch made it to Colorado, she was put into segregation and was locked down 23 hours a day. In the letters, Letitia spoke of attempting to escape through the window in her cell using a broom handle, that she had measured herself and that she would be able to fit through the window, and that they just needed to set up access points, and that if she helped her, she had money that she could share it with her once they escaped and were able to get to the funds. In another letter, it stated that GPAW was putting $75,000 in an account for a private attorney, but also an account that Harley, Letitia's daughter, would have access to. Reports would show these quotes in particular. Quote, "Much rather use the money to survive, if you know what I mean. You have my word to make sure we are MIA. I got us covered." Now, I know what you're thinking. Teresa is a criminal, but she is a criminal who has common sense and knows Letitia's charges. So, of course, she wanted nothing to do with it. And that is why she told Deputy Draper. Deputy Draper would be able to determine that both letters did come from Letitia because both letters had the same handwriting. And in one of the letters, she mentioned a visit that she had that day at 8 p.m. That was able to be verified that Letitia did have a visit with a social worker at 8 p.m. Of course, Letitia's cell would be searched and 2 more letters would be found. And in one of them, it would be addressed to Harley, and that would say, quote, "Something comes up on the news like she is no longer in jail or missing, to not be afraid." Now, at her June 2020 hearing, Letitia would be ordered to undergo a mental evaluation for competency to ensure she could help in her own defense. The exam would be in 2 parts, and the second part would not be completed until December 22nd, 2020. This would be due to a virus outbreak in the jail. In August of 2020, Letitia would write a letter to the judge, and I will be reading that letter to you now. Letitia Stouk would address this letter to Judge Gregory Warner, and the letter would go as follows. "Good afternoon, sir. I thank you for taking the time out to read my letter and my concerns about an unfair process that is going on in my case. I have expressed these concerns several times to my defense team and feel that I have not been afforded my rights as a United States citizen. It has been 5 months, and I've met with my defense team 1 time in March 2020. It is the middle of August. I understand this pandemic is unforeseen, but I don't feel I should be held unconstitutionally, have constitutional rights violated, and be abused in the process. First, as you know, there is over 30,000 growing pages of discovery in my case. I cannot successfully participate in my defense on a phone call 3 times a week, 1 hour. At the jail, I have no way to view any videos, read any reports, review phone data, etc. I'm not an active participant in my case. I know that the jail is listening to my attorney-client calls, as in several occasions I connected about someone or something specific and the jail immediately acted upon it. Officers also wait outside the door, easy to hear, and sometimes a video camera is on at the TV near the phone. Sir, these things are a violation of my rights. In addition, I have no way to write things down, as I am always restrained, with more times than not causing injury. I understand you cannot tell the jail how to run their facility, but I know that I can't ignore my rights being violated." What about Gannon's rights when you murdered him, allegedly? "Next, sir, I understand the 8th Amendment protects cruel and unusual punishment, and I know the Supreme Court says punishment can be just for the crimes. However, I'm in a county jail, and I'm presumed innocent. Not to mention, I am innocent, and we will prove it. I've been a pillar in my community in South Carolina. I have no adult record, never done drugs, and have a doctorate degree in education. I've proven myself a responsible citizen and should not be subjected to the cruel punishment that I receive at CJC. Over 50 plus times, I have been abused in transport, ranging from injured ribs, not on my head, several ankle and wrist bleeding bruises, on my knee, in my cell, loss of feeling in my hands several times. I've had to be on inshore for 2 weeks due to the poison comments. And just recently, on August 11th, 2020, I received threats in my peanut butter. because I provided evidence of not only my innocence, but evidence that I will show who it was through my PI. As a result of this, I assume their rumors use people in trusted positions in jail to send me threats in my food, and I'm terrified of what will happen next. I don't know how I'm supposed to properly defend myself going through this unfair punishment, being denied my constitutional rights, being denied access to my attorneys, being under scrutiny, causing daily mental disturbance, being restrained, causing injuries, being denied law library access, etc. This is not okay in a country in which our country prides itself on democracy, a country with a flag that got a hole in it at the Flanders Field in World War I, one that turned blood red in World War II, or the one that got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville. Through all this, the flag stood. We raise her up every morning because this country still stands for freedom, perseverance, justice, and vigilance. And I know what Congress decided on June 14th, 1777. Flag Day that is still rings true that not even the evil terrorists of 9/11 can take the American spirit away. However, I am showing the same things that the flag showed: valor, courage, purity, and innocence. To write to you, to say, I do not feel like a U.S. citizen being treated this way. In my beloved country, I'm not getting a fair process. I'm not getting represented properly, and I'll give the benefit of the doubt of a pandemic. But the other unjust treatment is not the way that our founding fathers intended this process to go. Not to mention, no pandemic, no terrorist attack, no police riots, etc. can stop our country from being the greatest on earth, upholding the law, and staying true to following one's constitutional rights. This is just the surface of my concerns. As you will see, they only get worse with illegal search and seizure. I was a victim of coercion, as it's mental and physical. Sir, you can tell I'm educated. I know Miranda versus Arizona. However, a person cannot perform under the scrutiny, abuse, coercion, etc. And that is what has happened throughout this entire process. Besides, due to info from my PI, I don't even feel that El Paso has jurisdiction, not to mention the wrong individual. I reach out to you to let you know that I'm very concerned with this process because I know that you will uphold the integrity of the court. The judicial system that I know does not allow a person who is presumed innocent and who is to improperly defend themselves, to be subjected to daily abuse and Eighth Amendment violations, does not deny Fifth and Sixth Amendment or speedy, fair trials, does not interfere with attorney-client privilege. Yes, I can tell you many situations in which I know they were listening. Does not physically, mentally, and emotionally abuse innocent people waiting on trial. Does not allow that individual to be in danger, not just from inmates, but from employees also. And does not avoid their situations, causing an individual's mental health to decline and safely be at risk. I live each day not knowing what will happen to me next, what person will put something else in my food, what rights I'll be denied tomorrow, or what injuries will occur next. I support law enforcement. I support our military, our country, and I know that a few bad apples/incidents can ruin it for good people. I extend my concerns to you as a first step in this because my attorneys have refused to let you know due to the public knowing. My life is on the line. I'm innocent, and I'm ready to return home and use the doctorate degree, EDD, that I work delightfully for, and cannot do that if I'm not afforded those rights. If I'm fighting for my life daily, I'm clearly no threat to myself, etc. Again, this is just the surface of my concerns, and ask that something be done so I can get this behind me, move past this trial in life, forgive those who persecuted and afflicted me, continue to be a soldier for Christ, and repair my mental state, and most importantly, grieve. I need those constitutional rights in order to be successful and participate in this process. I'm a prisoner, bound in chains, like Paul said. But I know my Bible's not bound. I also know he appointed people in authority and to respect them because they are chosen to uphold the law. Please accept this as my letter of letting you know first, not going over the court's head, and following the appropriate chain of command. Something has to be done, sir. Thank you. God bless. Dr. Letitia Stouk. P.S. If there is any possible way to receive acknowledgement of your receipt of this letter so that I know you are aware. You murdered I don't even want to call him your stepson. Now let's get back to Gannon's story. Letitia would be deemed competent to stand trial on January 19th, 2021. Preliminary hearings would be held on March 11th and 12th. And Letitia would be appointed a case investigator, most likely to navigate the documents since she has over 26,000 pages to go through. And of those 2,600, 1,800 were considered the case core. But another thing that happened as well was that Letitia Stouk wrote another letter to the judge about her case. And I'm going to read that letter to you. In her letter, Letitia would say, on February 19th, 2021, I was unable to talk with Judge Bain about my conflicts with my defense team due to 1, the actual privacy of the booth and the transport over. I explained to him in detail, expressing my concerns of privacy. 2, I had a very difficult morning mentally because I am not mentally well. Due to this, I find little value in the term expert. First, they were unable to obtain my mental health records from Charleston, South Carolina. When I finally paid a firm in South Carolina to obtain them. In 2016, I was diagnosed with redacted and received treatment before work for over 28 hours of care. The school district even provided extra services and later let me medically resign due to the ongoing reality breaks. In 2018, I was hospitalized in Canada, crossing the border for 2 days and completed more outpatient treatment when I returned. I tell you this because it sets the stage for why I cannot work with my attorneys. I signed release forms for them to get all this information so they would have a better understanding of why I'm all over the place some days. I asked them to use the info from a non-biased doctor who worked with me more than 2 hours. But instead, they sent a lady who was clearly an actress and friends with the DA. She spoke about him in an unprofessional manner, their history, and his election. Now, I'm sure all this was true, but I thought she worked for the court, not one particular side. My attorneys did this to make me look like a perjurous individual. Instead, it was malicious on their part. I have included several reasons to support my claim as I kept a timeline of these conflicts. Communication is beyond repair. I explained these issues to Judge Bain, including the lack of access and visitations, in complete detail, inconsiderate of evidence. Since March 2020, I asked my attorneys to preserve the GameStop footage, to locate the Texas police officer whom I spoke with, and to get the cruise passenger list. Instead, they spent months contacting my family for mitigation. When asked certain things, they kept saying they will let the investigators know. 1 year later, same answer. My evidence. I haven't physically seen any while being held at CJC for 1 year. Yes, COVID, but inmates were still being held as our constitutional rights were adjusted. Overlooking statute and evidence. They overlooked the competency statute about video recording. Human error? Okay, but this happens often with evidence, in which me, the non-expert, has to provide corrections to evidence. Sharing info. They were texting my family and giving them info that they should not have, causing several disputes. My judge. They filed that motion knowing this county would not grant me new attorneys to sabotage my chances of a trial by judge. They knew I wanted to present evidence to him without exposing any info on my son's father. However, they created incorrect conflicts instead of addressing the real issues. They could have filed the pro se only instead of talking about my defense to sabotage my trial by judge. Indeed, I am innocent, but I will not put myself or others in danger running the defense against my biological son when the system is letting 2 men run free who are involved. One is a prominent member of an independent business. They use the NGRI to get a hearing, knowing I'm not guilty, to cover up their lack of representation. Although I had bouts of insanity, and still do, I did not murder or abuse anyone, nor would that be a defense, because it's my understanding that you actually did do it. However, I will protect my bio son, and I will protect the drugs and violence documented from my stepson. The truth is, the court is holding the wrong person, and for the wrong crimes. This whole process has been nefarious, from denying me an attorney, threatening me in the bathroom, away from the cameras, to confess, taking advantage of me being delusional, threatening my other kids' freedom or else, etc. I'm going to keep making it known, sir, just how the state has done in this wrongful incarceration. I will continue to be an advocate for myself because I am not a murderer, and the level that the prosecution goes through to promote a wrongful conviction is absurd. Truth is, they could see a video from someone else and they would dismiss that person as a lunatic. They have for too much invested in this wrongful incarceration. To admit they were/are wrong, for these reasons and because my defense team is in cahoots with them, I am left with no other choice but to represent myself. Denying me my rights under the Constitution has happened throughout this process, from the detectives, the jail, and now my legal team. Every day I'm getting worse mentally due to inadequate representation and being held hostage for a crime I did not commit. These are my conflict issues and my reason for asking to go pro se. As always, thank you for your time. Is this woman serious? And pro se pretty much means like she wants to represent herself. And now let's get back to Gannon's story. Notice the handwriting difference between the first letter and now the second letter. Just saying. Coming to the May 20th, 2021 date, and counsel would file a continuance, stating that they had not been able to properly meet with Letitia due to the pandemic and jailhouse rules. In December of 2021, motions were submitted to change the venue and another motion to suppress a wiretap. That motion to suppress the wiretap would be declined on January 27th, 2022. The defense would also be denied motions to suppress ADT security system and suppress contents from the cell phone. The motion to change venue is still being reviewed, but the prosecution has responded to the venue change request and asked that it be denied. The next court date would be on February 11th, 2022. And at this hearing, Letitia would change her plea from not guilty to not guilty by reason of insanity. In a series of tweets by news reporter Lauren Scharf, Judge Warner would explain to Letitia the difference between a jury trial and a bench trial. Judge Warner stated, quote, "You're only going to get my viewpoint. I'm not swayed by motions or by the press. You're only going to get my viewpoint." In a later tweet, Scharf would say, quote, hashtag Letitia Stouk. Defense has filed a motion to proceed with a trial to the court and waive a jury. Stouk believes because of the pretrial publicity, the court can't find a fair jury pool. Judge won't make a ruling today. Interesting strategy and very, very interesting comments that were being made by the judge. But at the time of recording, her trial is set to begin March 28th, 2022. However, she does have a status conference hearing on March 17th, 2022.
Hello, editing Anna here. I did just want to go ahead and clarify it does look like Letitia Stauch's March 17th court date has been moved to April 14th, 2022 at 3 p.m.
Rest assured that as this trial plays out, I will be keeping you updated. Whether it's a quick video day-to-day update of the trial, or I just do a whole separate video of the trial, I will keep you updated. So that is the story of Gannon Stauch. What is your opinion on this case? What do you think will happen at trial? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video for more. And again, if you enjoy true crime, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. And I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Mama, I'm a criminal. Mama, I'm a criminal.